Are you still having trouble finding something that works? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you a couple different pairs on how I mark everything up on the 15-minute time frame and take entry on the 1 minute. For those of you that are new to this channel, my name is John, and this is Supermarket FX. Let's get into this right now. What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to look at one of my favorite ways to trade. It wasn't until I started doing this that I seen a shift in my trading. If you're somebody that's been having trouble, this might be what you're looking for. So what I'm talking about is supply and demand. So when we're looking at the chart and we're trying to identify areas where there can be a potential trading opportunity. Now, when you're looking at this, you might not see anything. Maybe because you don't have an indicator on the chart. It just looks like a big mess. Now, when we're targeting supply and demand, oftentimes we're looking for a change in direction, breaking structure, and then returning back to the previous area, which would be supply or demand, and looking for an entry on the lower time frame. Now, when we're looking at this, you can see price was going up, and then all of a sudden, price started moving downwards. Now, at this point, there was a lower low here, and you can see that it broke the previous low. Now, you could mark the body or the wick if you want, but for this example, I'm using the wicks. And what do? We look for an area of supply as a potential trading opportunity. Now you can see that it actually came back twice for here, but you can see how it came back into the area, and at that point you would have had an alert set. You would have dropped down to the 1 minute time frame, and you would have been looking for an entry pattern depending on what you want. Some people might just be looking for the touch and then they get in at that point. But for me, I generally look for signs of exhaustion followed by an engulfing pattern. And there's a couple different patterns I look for. I don't like to see price staying in that area too long. If that happens, I try to get out of the trade, because that could be a sign that it may be pushing through. But that's one example here. Now, when we're looking at this, I can show you another example. So we can see right now that there is another potential opportunity. It doesn't mean that it will work out. Now, when I'm looking at this, I can see that price was moving up, and then it changed direction. It made a lower low, lower high, lower low, and at that point, I'm curious with this point to see if it will come back into that area and change direction. So I would be looking for an entry pattern on the 1 minute time frame and trying to scalp something out of the market. And then you have to decide how much you want to try to take. If you're going to take partials, are you going to move your stop loss to break even? These are things you're going to have to decide. Everybody's going to be different. But this happens over and over again, every single day. You can find trading opportunities. It doesn't mean they're going to work out. Now, there's a lot of different things you can do to try to find out what you've done wrong or right. So let's take a look at another pair and see some more examples. Okay, so we're looking a little further back on the chart, and what you can see, there was a few other opportunities that I marked off. Maybe you got in on some of these. You can see again, price pushing, strong push to the upside, breaking structure. At that point, you're looking back at demand as a potential trading opportunity. So that'd be at the beginning of the leg. And it took some time, but price did come back into that area. Now you can see that we had an area of supply up here, and price came back up into the area, just touching into it before changing direction. And each time, so you can see with this one, when we were looking at this, from that point down to there, you can see it was 109 pips. And this one here was 89 pips. And again, price broke structure, you know. So we had this area marked off, and you're just looking for the area of demand for price to return back to. And in time, it did come back into it. And at that point, you would have been looking for an opportunity. You might have been trying to get in at this point, and you might have been stopped out depending on where your stop loss was. But you can see that it moved 113 pips. That's quite the move. Now, we're not always trying to take these large moves. I find sometimes it's better when you go for the smaller runs, but it all depends on what you want to get. Whatever your strategy tells you to do. But this happens over and over again. And let's take a look at another pair now. Okay, here, so we're on GBP AUD. And we're going to look at the same thing. Now, you can see price broke down. And what I would have been doing is I would have been looking for opportunities at the top of supply. You can see how price came into the area before changing direction, and you could have gotten in. You don't know if this is going to be a good trade or not. It could end up going in your favor, and you still may get stopped out depending on how close your stop loss is. This is why you need to practice this. And do this over and over again before you even consider touching a live market. And again, here we go. So you can see how price was going down. Price broke above. And at that point, I would have considered this as a potential opportunity. I would have just been watching it closely, seeing if something can happen, if it's going to come back to my area. So you can see with this, it just almost touched, maybe touched. Pretty close. That could have been an opportunity right there, maybe. And this definitely came into the area. But one thing you should keep in mind, when price has touched an area once already, it may be in your best interest to just stay away from that supply or demand zone and look for fresh zones that haven't been touched at all. So, but again, when you're looking at this, let's see, the price came in, and of course we know we're not going to get in right at this point, but you might have been in somewhere here. And if you were targeting the highs or the previous supply area, you can see just that alone was almost 100 pips. And if your stop loss was 10 pips or less, you could see that that would have been a good return on that one. So just keep practicing this. This does work, but you need to work out all the bugs that you're going to run into when trading, because nothing is easy. We can make this look easy as possible, but the idea is just to sink it into your head, get comfortable with this, start journaling everything, start understanding why your trades were successful, why did some of them not work out, look for the reasons that they failed, and see if that happens often enough. Find a way to fine-tune your strategy. Are you forgetting to look at any upcoming news events before getting in on a trade? Because you could end up losing a perfectly good trade because of that. Are you taking trades near the end of the day? We know spreads open up quite a bit at the end of the day. And if you're anywhere close to it, close to price, your stop loss is going to get hit. So little things like that. Waiting for another additional piece of confirmation on the 1 minute time frame. Every little thing that you can do is going to help you overall. If you have any questions about this, just let me know. I'd be happy to respond. And until next time, bye for now.